Hello everyone. Let's begin with the next part of our Python tutorial wherein we learn about control structures in Python. So as we have already learned that any program is nothing but a set of instructions which has to be executed sequentially. So what exactly do these control statements do? So there are certain uh, commands within a program which actually decides the way in which the entire program needs to be executed, or in other words they basically control the flow of computing and decision making. So most of these control statements are executed upon successfully satisfying certain criteria or on rejecting certain criteria, and depending upon whether the criteria has been satisfied or has been neglected, the next chain of commands will follow for the program to execute. So today we are going to learn about the three main control statements and their nested versions. So now let us begin with if-else statement. I will start with a very simple program by taking two simple variables, that is a, and I'm going to assign some value, and again I'm going to consider b and I'm going to assign some values. If b is greater than a, whenever you're writing conditional statements, please be careful with the syntax. As you can see here, if as a keyword ends, it has been highlighted in green, and the if statement ends with a colon. In the next line, automatically the print statement has been indented. In case if whenever you're working out and if the statement is not indented, please make sure to give a tab space and then begin with your statement. So here it says b is greater than a. So this is a very simple example of an if statement, and I'm going to click run. So basically what we tried here is we assigned two different values for a and b, and we tried to use an if statement to find out whether b is greater than a. Now I'm going to take a same example but with a little bit of modification. I will say that if b is less than a, then it needs to be typed as a is greater than b, else, again else is a keyword which needs to be followed with a colon, and print, oh sorry, it is same as the statement, so I'm going to consider this. So here compared to the previous example where we had only one condition, that is if, here we have another condition called as else, wherein we are asking the program to first check for the condition that is b is less than a. If b is actually less than a, then it is going to execute the next chain of commands. But in case if this condition is not satisfied, then the program will automatically skip the succeeding statements and directly go to else. So again I'm going to click run here, and as you can see again it says b greater than a, because in this, since b is not less than a, this particular statement has not been executed and we have directly gone to the next statement here. Now I'm going to show you another example of if-else statement wherein we can give multiple if statements. Let me consider a small example, say a is equal to 33, b is equal to 33. If b is greater than a, print b is greater than a, or else I have to go back to the same level where my if statement had started, and elif, which is nothing but the short form for else if, a is equal to b, print a and b are equal, else, again indentation, please be careful, you need to know when to use indentation and when not to use it. A is greater than b. So here we can see that there are more than one condition, that is if b is greater than a, then it has to execute this statement. If this condition does not hold good, then it is going to try to execute this command and it sees, oh, A is equal to B. So then automatically it is going to execute this command. In case even if this condition is not satisfied, then it is directly going to print this command. Okay. So as you can see here, both A and B are equal. In the previous tutorial, we dealt with a lot of arithmetical operations and the order of precedence of these arithmetical operations. So in this tutorial, let us talk about logical operators, and I'm going to start with a very simple example by taking three variables and assigning three different set of values for them. If A is less than B and C is greater than B, then it has to print that A is less than B and C. I have missed the quotes, so let me add it. So here AND is our logical operator, and this command is going to be executed only if both these conditions, that is A less than B and C greater than B, is satisfied. If only one of the condition is satisfied, then this command is not going to be executed. So now I'm going to press run, and as we can see, A is in fact less than B and C, and hence these two conditions were satisfied, and then as a result we could actually print this command. Now what if we have a condition wherein only one of these criteria gets satisfied? So in that case, there is another logical operator which is called as OR operator, and I will be using the same example but with only a slight modification, wherein I will say that A is equal to 200, B is 33 and C is 500. So then I am going to say that C is the greatest, and I'm going to change it to OR. So OR is the logical operator. So even if either of these conditions are satisfied, it can still execute this statement. So as you can see, C is greatest. In this case, A is definitely not less than B, but C is greater than B. So as a result, we could still execute this one. Now, like I told at the beginning, there are nested versions of the same loop. So let's try to see a nested version of if loop. Okay, so now I'm writing a program wherein if the user gives a value, the program has to tell whether it is greater than certain number. For example, I will take my x as equal to 55. This is the input from the user. So now I will write a program which says that if x is greater than 10 colon indent, print x is above 10, or else if actually if x is greater than 10, it is going to print that x is above 10. But again, you can give multiple commands. Say if x is greater than 20, then print x is above 20. Again, you can give one more set of if statements, that is if x is greater than 50, then print x is greater than 50. Or else you can in fact end the statement by saying else print x is not greater than 50. So now as you can see, this is a general program starting from if statement till else. So upon successfully satisfying each of these criteria, it is going to execute the corresponding command. Now in our case, I will say my x value is 55. So automatically it is greater than 10. So it has to execute this particular command. And then again, upon successfully executing this particular line of command, it is going to check what next. So if you say that it should also be x greater than 20, then again it's going to check here. and upon successfully satisfying this criteria as well, so it is going to execute the next set of statement, and then again it will come to the next statement. So upon doing like this, it is finally going to print this statement. In case if our value was anywhere, say, let me first execute this program and show you how the result looks. So in case if I'm going to change this value to say 40, and if I'm going to run, it is going to say that x is not greater than 50. So this is just a general program wherein you can write an if loop inside another if loop, and so on and so forth. So next we will go to for loop. So for loop is one of the most commonly used for iterating over a set of numbers, such as it can be a list or a dictionary, or it could be a string, and so on. So now let us start with very simple, very basic program. First, let me create a list of items through which the for loop can actually iterate. So I will call this as apple, and then orange and pineapple. So here, so I've created a list through which the for loop is going to iterate, and I'm going to say for x in fruits, I want the for loop to print all the items in the list. So here x is nothing but every individual element in the list fruits. So upon each iteration, it is going to consider element by element and execute the next chain of commands, which in this example is actually a print statement. So if I click and run, so it has iterated over all the elements in the list. So similarly, we can do another interesting example wherein you iterate over a string. So let us say for I in banana, I want it to iterate over every alphabet in the string. So I'm going to say print I, and you can see that it has iterated over each of the alphabet that was present in that string. So there are a certain set of additional commands which we are actually going to use when we are using a for loop. So one such function is the range function. So let us start with a very simple example wherein you get an idea about where to use range function and what exactly it does. So for x in range 6, I will ask the program to print x. So what exactly here it is doing is that, as you know that Python starts with numbering from 0 and not from 1. So it is going to start iterating starting from 0 till it reaches 6. That is, in this case, it is going to print only till 5. Python usually excludes the ending number of the sequence. So in case if you wanted even the number 6 to be printed, you will have to change it to 7 here, and then it is going to iterate starting from 0 up till 7, and it is going to print all the values between this range. So there are other ways to use this range function as well. For example, for x in the range 2, 6. So what exactly are these 2 and 6 is that we are mentioning the starting and the ending point for the for loop. So now if I press run, so it has executed and it has run over every digit between 2 and 6. Like I told, Python always considers the starting point, but it neglects the ending digit. So that is why you cannot see 6 in this example. Now, also there is another way wherein you can use the range function for x in the range. Let me try to iterate it over a bigger sample size. So let's say my starting digit should be 1, ending digit should be 30, and I want it to iterate over every second interval. That is, for every 2 intervals I want the for loop to print the value of x. So as you can see here, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and so on. Now we can make this example a little bit more interesting by actually combining for loops and if else statements. So before going to this combination of these two, let me introduce one more simple for loop technique which we use, wherein you can actually number every iteration. So for the same as previous example, I am going to add another term called as I, which actually stands for the index number of the iteration or serial number of your iteration. For I comma x in enumerate. So enumerate is the command which actually numbers your every iteration. So I have said that for I comma x and enumerate of range between 1 to 30 at every 2 interval, we want that to print I comma x. So now you can see the difference. So it says at the 0th iteration, the number what it is printing is 1. At first iteration, that is the 1 iteration number, the number which is printed is 3. So like this, you can actually number and give a serial number to every iteration as well. So now coming to the interesting part where we can actually combine for loops and if else statements. I will begin with for I comma x in enumerate range. I can go with a bigger sample size, I hope, comma for colon. Do not forget, otherwise you will be stuck with a lot of errors. Please be careful whenever you're typing the syntax. So here I'm writing a simple program in order to categorize the numbers between 1 to 50 into odd and even number. So I have begun with the for loop. So basically I'm telling the program to iterate between 1 to 50 at every 4 interval. If x percentage 2 is equal to 0 colon, enter, it is indented, print I comma percent d is even. So what this means is that you're trying to say that digit is even or odd. And in case if this condition is not satisfied, then there is nothing to worry about, and we have an alternate statement for that as well. I comma percentage d is odd. So you might be wondering what exactly these percentage symbols are actually doing here. Here, when we use x percentage 2 is equal to 0, what we are trying to find out is if any given number in this range, that is between 1 to 50, is divided by 2, and if its remainder is equal to 0, then it means that particular digit, that is x, is actually an even number, else it is an odd number. So what exactly is this percentage d doing here? So as you know that in this for loop, the value of x keeps changing for every iteration, and you cannot write or give a single digit or mention the digit and say that this number is odd and this number is even. Because as it changes for every iteration, we write a general statement saying percentage d. Percentage d actually stands for a number, and upon ending the quotes, we will tell the program what value this percentage d should actually take up. So if you write a percentage program, the program will understand that this percentage symbol is actually telling us about the input variable from which the value needs to be taken and printed within the quotes. So similarly, we can do it with strings as well, but if it is a string, then we have to use percentage %s. Now I'm going to run this program, and as you can see, this is the 0th iteration. 1 is odd, 5 is odd, 9 is odd, and so on. So here we do not have any even numbers because here the range is actually we have kept it as 4. So one way to actually change this is that I will change the range to 2, and I'm going to click run. So again it's going to say 1, 2, and it's odd. Then if I change this interval to 3, so now you can see there is odd, even, odd, even, odd, even sequence. So for the 0th iteration, 1 is odd, and in the first iteration, the number what it chose was 4, and it turned out to be even. In the iteration number 2, which is nothing but the third iteration, the number was 7, and that turned out to be odd, and so on and so forth. So this executes until the number 49. So that by this we have come to the end of our first part of the control structures tutorial, and see you in the next tutorial. Till then, bye bye.